In this video, we're going to go over Independent Project 7-6 in Excel. I always suggest that people have a printed copy of the instructions. It's not absolutely necessary, but it's much easier as you can check off items as you complete them. It's also good if you have a printed color copy of them because some of the instructions and images are in color and it makes it a little bit easier to do. That's what I do. I've been doing this for a long time and I always get a printed color copy of the instructions if possible. If not, you can work with the regular instructions or a digital version. So let's head over and start with step number one. Step number one says to open up the start file. That's what you see right here. And if you see this enable editing button up at the top, simply double click it and it'll allow you to edit this particular workbook. The file will be renamed to automatically include your name. However, if your instructor tells you to rename the file to something specific, now is the time to do it. And that completes step one. Step two. It says select cell D2 on the data sheet. So I'm sure you know Excel by now, but there are different sheets down here in the lower left-hand corner. Anytime you see multiple sheets, it's important to know about them. In this case, they want us to select the data sheet. I'm going to make this just a little bit bigger using the zoom slider bar down here so you can see this. It says select cell D2. That's cell D2. How do you know it's D2? You can see it here and here. You can also see what cell you're on up here in the upper left-hand portion of the screen. What they say to do is to check out the formula. And you can see the formula up here in the formula bar. It says round and then in parentheses C2 divided by B2 comma 3. So check that out. That completes step two. It says step three. Select cells D2 through D10. Might want to make this just a little bit smaller on the screen so we can see all of them. I'm going to select D2 through D10. And it says open the Format Cells dialog box. A couple different ways to do this. I simply right click, click Format Cells, and that'll open up the dialog box. That completes step three. Step four, it says select the custom category on the number tab. So I'm on the number tab right here. And part of the reason why I go just a little bit slowly through these is I'm checking off each item as I complete them. So I'm really trying to make sure I don't miss anything. I literally cross off or put check marks by each little tiny step. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to click custom, which is down here towards the bottom. And it says it wants us to choose a 0.00. And then here in this type edit box, it wants us to add another decimal point here, just like you see the instructions. So I'm going to put a 0, not an O, of course, it's a 0, the number 0. And then that'll indicate the number of zeros that displays after the decimal point. I'm going to click OK. And that's going to complete step four. Step five. It says select cell D2 and then click the Format Painter. So I'm just going to go back here, click just D2. I'm going to click the Format Painter once. It's up here on the Home tab, and it'll allow you to copy the formatting of any particular cell or range of cells. Next, it says click the color tracking tab or calorie tracking tab, and then paint the format to cells E3 through E33. Make sure you get these cells correct. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so you can see it. I'm going to start with E3 right here, and I'm going to head all the way down to E33 and then release my mouse button. I'm holding my mouse button the whole time. And then once I release it, it'll get these cells ready to look the way we want it to look. And that completes step five. Step six. select cell E3 on the calorie tracking sheet. E3, let me make this just a little bit bigger so you can see it. I'm selected E3 there. It says start a Vlookup function. So let's head up here to the formulas tab. It says lookup and reference. Click that drop down. And be very careful because there is a lookup button here, but that's not, or function, but that's not what we want. We want the VLOOKUP function. Important that you understand that. It says for the lookup value, we need to put in C3. So I type in C3 there. And then for the table array, use an absolute reference to cells A2 through D10 on the data sheet. So we could head over the data sheet, but I know how to do this. So I'm going to type in data with an exclamation point, and then that's going to tell it to use the information on the data sheet. And then I'm going to type in, and you have to know this with absolute reference, absolute value, that you have to use a $sign in front of the column and the row. So I'm going to put a $sign and then A, then a $sign, 2, and then colon button. Then I need $sign, D, $sign, 10. Checking that out, I can see it a little bit better up here. Looks pretty good to me. In the next area, in the column index number, I'm going to put in 4. It's for the calories per minute. Once again, I'm just checking off each item as I complete it. If I click OK, you should see this number right here. It should say 8.333. That'll complete step 6. Step 7. Edit the formula in cell E3 to multiply the results by the number of minutes in cell D3. So what I can do is, making sure this is selected, I'm going to head up here to the formula bar, and I'm going to put in the multiplication symbol, which is that star. And then I am going to multiply that by D3. I could type it in there, or I could simply click D3, your choice, completely your choice. And then I'm going to click enter. And that completes step 7. Step 8. It says copy the formula in cell E3 to cells E4 through E33, noting that there'll be an NA error if there's no data selected in some of those cells, which is quite all right. Just means there's not any data available. So make this just a little bit smaller so I can do the whole range. I need to select cell E3. And then in the lower right hand portion of the cell, looks like a skinny plus in the very lower right hand corner. That's going to allow me to copy the formula down. I'm going to hold down my main mouse button, and then select all the way down to E33 and release. And if you do this right, you'll see NA in the cells at the bottom, meaning there's not any data in there right now. So worry about that later on. And that completes step 8. Step 9. Select cells C3 through C33. So I will do that. Let me just do that one more time. Make sure I'm selecting, starting with C3. And I am, to 3C33. It says use and set the data validation to use the list of activity names on the datasheet. So what I need to do, hopefully you can see this. Maybe I can make this a little bit bigger here. I don't know if that makes it a little bit bigger up here. But I need to be on the data tab. I need to select data validation. Let me do that one more time. Select data validation. And it says use the list of activity names. So here where it says allow, one of the choices on the drop down menu, it'll say list. And then the source, I need to head over to the data tab. And I need to select A2 through A10. And please note, you can see how, since this is a different sheet, it has the data and then exclamation point. That means it's a different sheet. And then it's using the absolute reference here. It has the $ in front of the A and the 2 and the A and the 10. It automatically puts it there for you. I just want you to be aware of that fact. Important to know that in Excel. Click OK. And that completes step 9. Step 10. On the calorie tracking sheet, delete the data in cells A3 through D23. Let me head back over to the calorie tracking sheet. It's right here. Make sure we're on it. And we are. And we need to delete. So I'm going to select A3 through D23. And I'm just going to simply hit the delete key on my keyboard. And that will delete the data. That completes step 10. Step 11. Select cells B3 through B33. B3 through B33. And set data validation to use date that is less than or equal to today. So I need to be on the data tab, data validation, and if your ribbon looks slightly different, make sure you're finding data validation. It should be up there. In fact, it will be up there. You should see a drop-down menu. Make sure you click data validation. Then under settings, select date. And it says data between, and then we need to choose, and this is where I'm going very carefully here, less than or equal to, less than or equal to, and then an end date. And you can see what it should be written on the image over there on the right hand side of the instructions. There should be figure 7-79. So you can type that in, equal today, and then it's parentheses. It also wants us to put a stop error alert. So if I click on the little error tab here, should default to stop. And I'm going to type in the title, say check date. That'll alert people to check the date. And then in the error message, I'm going to type in date must be today or in the past. Double checking to make sure I get the capitalization right and the spelling. Very easy to mess this stuff up, so please take your time. You don't want to mess up on the silly stuff. I check that off on my instructions. Click OK, and that will complete step 11. Step 12. Select cells A3 through D33. And I just did that there. It It says remove the lock cell property. So how I do this, it's a couple different ways, but I like to just simply right click, format cells. One of the tabs should be on the right hand side, should say protection. I just uncheck that, and now they're both unchecked. And I click OK, and that removes that lock cell property. Finally, it says select cell A3, and that completes step 12. Step 13, it says display the developer tab on the ribbon and click the data worksheet tab. Some folks will have the developer tab enabled for them. If you don't, what you need to do is go to File, Options, select Custom Ribbon over here, and then on the right hand side it'll say Main Tabs, and this is where you can actually disable tabs if you like. If the developer tab is not available to you, if you check Developer, click OK, that will now enable that developer tab to be used by you or anybody that uses your computer. Lastly, it says make sure you're on the data worksheet tab. So I'm on this data worksheet tab. And that completes step 13. Step 14, draw a combo box control to cover cell F8 and open its formula control dialog box. So let's do this. We should be on the developer tab right there. Let me just make this a little bit smaller so we can see where we are. This is cell F8 right here. Just showing it to you. So what I'm going to do is on the developer tab, we need to select Insert. I'm just reading the instructions very slowly to make sure I do everything correctly, checking off each little thing as I go over it. One of the choices, hover over them, should be combo box. On my computer, it's second from the left, upper left there. It's form control. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select cell F8 and get it as close as I can, and then release it. Next, I'm going to right click. This is still selected. I right click. I click Format Control, Control, and for the input range, it wants us to select cells G8 through G11. I'm going to make sure I'm clicked into the input range. Then I'm going to simply just select G8 through G11, double checking this is what it wants. It'll put it up there. For the cell link, I click in there. It says it wants me to type in F8. Click OK. And that should complete step 14. You can see an image over there, figure 7-80. That should show you what we're doing. Step 15. Deselect the control and then select the second from it. So I'm just going to click anywhere. Then I'm going to click the drop down box in F8 and click seconds. And that completes step 15. Step 16. Click the Hospital Seminars tab. I select it. And if the whole thing's selected, you can just deselect it by clicking anywhere. That's fine. But it wants us now to make sure we just select cell D4, which I'm doing right here. I guess I can make this a little bit bigger for you. Cell D4. And this cell has center across selection, alignment applied. It does, but if you want to verify that, you could right click, format cells. I just want to double check this is true, but it will be. If it isn't, you could fix it. It should say center across selection. If for some reason it wasn't that, you could select that, but most likely it'll be that. So I'm just going to click OK. I'm not going to change anything. I just wanted to show you. And that completes step 16. Step 17. This could be a little bit tricky, so just follow along. You'll probably want to read the entire set of instructions for 17 so you know where we're headed. If you did the work in SimNet, you'll probably already understand where this goes. So I'm going to go a little bit rapidly, but let's get right into it. It says in cell D4, use a CONCAT and index to display the result from the combo box. So let's get right into it. Should be on D4 right here, select it. Then I need to be up here in the formula tab. This is going to be a text function. You should see the one that says CONCAT. So to move this along, I'm going to do exactly what the instructions say to do. And you can see a really good figure of this. It's probably on page 3 for you, but I'm going to type in the text box exactly what I see in figure 7-82. I'm going to type in index, and it might be kind of small on your printout. Hopefully you can see that. Index, then the parentheses. I'm going to physically type it in here. For me, it's a little bit easier. If you know a different way, that's completely fine. So data with an exclamation point, then G8 colon G11 comma, type in data with an exclamation point, then F8, close the parentheses. Next, I'm going to move down to text 2 argument, and it says press the space bar once, then type in quarter and click OK. It says format cell D4 as bold, italic, 16 point. Should still be on D4. Head over to the home tab, bold, italic, 16. And that completes step 17. Step 18. On the data sheet, select third from the combo box control and then return to the hospital seminar sheet to see the results. So let's just, before we head over to the data sheet, take a look right here. It says second quarter. Let's see what happens when I head to the data sheet. Select third, then head back to the hospital seminar sheet. Should say third. And that completes step 18. Step 19, select D4 and D6 through G10. So D4 should probably already be selected. If it isn't, make sure it is. And then I need to hold down the control button because I'm going to select a separate non-adjacent range. So I am literally holding down the control button, and I'm selecting D6 through G10. It says remove the locked property, so I can right click, format cell, protection, unchecked the locked feature, click OK. That completes step 19. Step 20, it says delete the contents of cells D6 through G10. So I'm going to just click anywhere to deselect that so I can get back in here and then just select D6 through G10. Click the delete button on my keyboard. That should delete everything in that range. That completes step 20. Step 21, it says protect the hospital seminars sheet and the calorie tracking sheet, both without passwords. So I'm on the hospital seminar sheet, but I'm going to just make sure it's on that. I'm going to right click down here over the sheet name, right click. It says protect sheet. I'm not going to put in a password, but I'm just going to click OK. And I'm going to go to the calorie sheet. I'm going to right click, protect sheet, not put in a password. I'm just going to click OK. That completes step 21. Step 22 says to save and close your workbook. Step 23 says to upload and save your project. And finally, step 24 says to submit your project for grading. Best of luck, everybody.